So if you have Sales Navigator, which is the $100 a month premium option, you can actually send up to 800 in-mails per month, not 100 or 150, which is the typical limit, by targeting what's called open profiles. We created a strategy and a system to identify who's open and who's not using a tool called Linked Helper, and then uploading those lists into our software tools like Zopto, HeyReach, Connect More, Valley. There's a lot of tools out there. And then basically sending out more messages than anybody else. Now they can run 10 to 15 LinkedIn accounts for $2,000 a month, so literally 10 to 15 times the results. And they don't pay us a fee to do it. They pay the software. We bring in the tools, we bring in the people for them. So we build the engine that we built ourselves. And then instead of charging them a fee for that, we come in as a partner. My background's in digital marketing. I built my first company when I was in college, sold that around the time I graduated. It was a marketing company for financial advisors. After I sold that company, I got into capital raising, built a company called ThinkFish, which introduced startups to investors. That got acquired back in 2023. And more recently, I just sold my B2B services lead generation business called Growth Co., which was actually acquired on July 1st of 2025, so about a week ago.
Nice.
So now I'm a free agent.
Congratulations.
Exactly.
Nice.
Thank you.
So the theme across all three companies were marketing, lead generation. Um, would that be the case? Online marketing
Yes, it just all in different niches, but that is correct. And specialized mainly in LinkedIn.
and mainly all three of them on LinkedIn?
All three of them on LinkedIn, yes.
Wow. Okay. So tell me about the first one again. What was the business and kind of tell me a little bit about who are the clients and what was the value add or the value prop?
Sure. So just to give some backstory, when I was in college, I saw this guy selling a software tool to financial advisors. He was selling them a LinkedIn automation tool, charging them $300 a month. And my deduction was, okay, well, why not just package that tool into a suite of services, help people create the strategy, help them with the responses, program the software for them so they don't need to get technical, and do everything A to Z in one service. And that's what kind of birthed the idea for the LinkedIn done for you as a service lead generation. So the concept itself was not very different from what they were doing, but just as a done for you model. So we were working with financial advisors all the way from like Merrill, Morgan Stanley, Northwestern Mutual, all the way to solo practitioners and RIAs to do lead generation for them. And the company was called Advisor Appointment. So that's the DAX story and what we did.
Oh, nice. Okay. And then the next one was raising capital for startups.
Yes, exactly. So basically the company was called ThinkFish. The fish short for funding is hard. And what we did is we worked with these pre-seed to Series A stage startups and 506c private equity funds to do outreach on their behalf to investors. So we would basically use their LinkedIn accounts and send messages to investors that we've identified in Sales Navigator and send the message, respond to the lead, set the call. So that was the same business, just in a different industry.
Oh, that's awesome. And then the last one was industry agnostic. It's the same business, but it's just industry agnostic for anybody and everybody.
Exactly. Yeah, mainly B2B services companies, helping them get new customers, mid-market, primarily AI, recruiting, tech, staffing, like a wide variety of customer types.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, so so how long from the first company to the last company? What was that period like?
Yeah, so I started Advisor Appointments in 2019 and I recently exited Growth Co. in 2025.
About
So
six
6 years
years.
across all three exits. Yeah.
So 6 years, that's really cool. So you really dove deep into LinkedIn lead gen and then just used that skill, across three different industries or three different spaces. So how have you seen the evolution of LinkedIn from when you started to now?
Yeah, so when I got into it in 2019, there was a little bit less saturation. There weren't as many people doing it as there are now. LinkedIn was also a little bit more open with letting people do automation and direct outreach, and they've cracked down a little bit in the last few years. I still think that even 6 years later, LinkedIn is a fantastic tool to get new customers. And till the day I sold Growth Co, we were doing it ourselves. So there's definitely a lot of meat on the bone. It may not be as many meetings as you get per account back in 2019, but there's still, I would say, 80-85% of the juice to be squeezed from it.
Oh, 80%. Okay. And then how do
Yes.
you see it evolve in the next 5 years?
I think more and more people are going to be using it for automation. I do think LinkedIn is cracking down a little bit harder on some of the more static outreach messages when people are just mass spamming the same thing. So a lot of trends that I've seen have been making people actually switch to more AI tools for the outreach. So instead of the static, hi, first name, great to connect, and then go into your pitch and then send a Calendly or whatever. The new framework is a lot of people using AI tools. There are tools like Valley, like Connect More. There's a lot of tools we can get into that are more personalized to the prospect, reference things about their profile, their experience that you can't get with a static placeholder. And I think that's the future is people using AI. I also think that with LinkedIn in general, to have success, it is a volume game.
Yeah.
It is cold outreach, just like email. So you have to send out a lot of messages. And I can get into the specific technicalities of how to send more messages than most people can. But that's definitely going to be still a critical factor in the next 5 years is marrying like quality messaging with the quantity. And that's what's going to win in 5 years from now.
Makes sense. And so, what is this? What is the strategy of LinkedIn marketing, or what is, from your perspective, how do you win at LinkedIn marketing?
So number one, it's understanding the volume sending limits on LinkedIn because there's a lot of different concepts and different frameworks of how to do this. So to break that down, there are two types of outreach messages on LinkedIn. One is a connection request, and if someone accepts the connection, then you can drip on them and send them follow-ups. And one is an in-mail. And we get 80% of our leads from in-mails, but 80% of the people I talk to that do LinkedIn marketing just do connections. So there's a big disparity in knowledge in the industry. And in-mails are basically direct messages that bypass the connection request, go straight into the inbox, and has a subject line. And what most people don't know, even those that do in-mails, is that there are ways to actually send out a lot more in-mails than the credits you have. So if you have Sales Navigator, which is the $100 a month premium option, you can actually send up to 800 in-mails per month, not 100 or 150, which is the typical limit, by targeting what's called open profiles, which are other LinkedIn premium users. 80% of open profiles are premium. And so we created a strategy and a system to identify who's open and who's not using a tool called Linked Helper, and then uploading those lists into our software tools like Zopto, HeyReach, Connect More, Valley. There's a lot of tools out there, and then basically sending out more messages than anybody else. So that's been kind of the game with volume. I think your question was along the lines of like what wins. Well, that's what wins is sending out the messages. Number two is actually having enough accounts for the outreach. So you can't use fake accounts on LinkedIn; they get banned. You have to use real human being accounts, and so getting more accounts is always the big scalability issue because each account can only send out 800 emails and 400 to 800 connection requests. It's not like an email where you can send a million a month from one account. Well, you get banned, but you can still do it theoretically. So basically, what we do is we get more accounts. We use our team in the Philippines. We use their accounts. We brand their friends, colleagues. We get more accounts through that. We post on Upwork, Fiverr, and then getting accounts, mirroring the right number of outreach, and then finally, it's just quality of the messaging, which is really critical, like leveraging the AI tools to personalize, but also focusing on an offer that people actually want and not just spamming them with something that you think they want. So instead of saying, hey, I saw you do this business. I offer IT services. Here's what I do. A better pitch would be, hey, I can save you 15% on your IT costs or save you 15% of your gross margin, focusing on the bottom line of these businesses and understanding that different key decision makers in different departments are going to want different things. So kind of highlighting a different pitch to a COO than a CFO than a CEO. So those are kind of high level concepts I would say that contribute to the effectiveness of a LinkedIn campaign.
Nice. Okay, so it starts with identifying, building the list, and but the
Mm-hmm.
strategy as a whole is start volume. So volume, 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 and then once you have maxed out the volume, what's possible within LinkedIn, then you talk about quality, conversion, quality of the message, quality of the offer, in order for you to turn that volume into leads, for you to improve the
Mm-hmm.
conversion. So you start out with maxing out the volume. How much can I get? How many contacts, how many messages I can send out first. That's the first thing.
Mhm.
And then the second layer is tweaking and optimizing the offer and the message and the cadence and the tone in order for you to get the conversion, get a response, get conversion. Is that correct?
Yeah, exactly. It's about marrying both at the same time. If you don't have both of them, it's guaranteed going to fail. You can send out a lot of messages, wrong offer, send out a lot of messages.
Makes
They both
sense.
have to work.
Makes
Hmm.
sense. So the first tool you use is to identify those open, you call them open mail or accounts that can receive mails even though you're not friends with them. Is that correct? Or you're
Yeah.
not connected to them?
It's called open profiles, which
Open
are
profile.
80% of LinkedIn premium users. So when someone signs up for LinkedIn Sales Navigator, they automatically get the open profile designation. And some of them turn it off, but most of them don't even know they have it. So basically, the first tool in the toolkit is LinkedIn Sales Navigator. And you got to get that before anything else. And that's like $100 a month. You buy that through LinkedIn. And basically, that will enable you to build lists of leads who might be interested in your service, and you can do that in
Yeah.
Sales Navigator. And then you use tools like Linked Helper. When you build the list, you upload those to Linked Helper to identify who's open and who's not. Now, some software tools will automatically do that for you, and you don't need Linked Helper, but Linked Helper is a good tool along the way. And then you upload it into the software tool, like, for example, HeyReach, Shopify, Zopto, Valley, Connect More, it's dozens of them. And then you program the software outreach, and then you kind of go from there. So those are kind of the main general
So the
tech
tools
stacks.
that you mentioned, the set of tools you mentioned, those are the ones that distribute the messages, that do the automated, messaging, correct?
Yes. The
And
tool that does it is the software tool. Yes.
correct. Which one of those tools are you seeing kind of winning at the AI, messaging, the automated optimization of the message to the recipient?
Yeah. So Connect More and Valley are two tools that are more focused on the AI side.
Yeah,
HeyReach, Zopto, Dripify, those are great, but they're more static.
static.
Those are tools I've used historically. But Valley and Connect More, and there's others as well, are more good for like the personalization, and they can be very personalized. They can reference names of secondary connections. They can reference like their recent post, pull something from the post, and tie that back into the pitch, and then create. It's really cool what they can do actually. So,
And have you
yeah.
seen have you seen those tools effective to increase conversion? So basically, from you being really good at what you do, understanding the
Mhm.
right message that speaks to that recipient, or letting the AI figure out with the message, which, so far, like up to today, what have you found? Are those AI tools effective at writing, a good copy to create a response or no?
They are, but I still think they're still early in development, even though some of them have been out for a year or two. That's why even now I still do a lot of static messaging as I'm
Okay.
testing the AI tools to see what works the best. Even with the I still give it a general framework to like use this calendar link and mention the guaranteed results or whatever we put in the messaging. So it's not like I let the AI run free completely. I do give it a guideline.
Yeah.
The AI is really great at like creating the human factor of the message, which is like the personalization based on referencing something on their profile or a secondary connection. The AI, I haven't seen as much about customizing the offer in a way that could be more effective for them as much. So I think that's the next step. The AI tools that I've seen need to take before I would fully go all in on an AI tool instead of a static tool.
That makes sense. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense because that's what I've seen also. And I mean, most of these AI tools, they're really impressive, but when you measure the actual performance, it's not
Mm-hmm.
much higher. I mean, sometimes it's
Yes.
pretty much the same. So I'm curious of how these things are improving. So we have the audience. Is there any other tool that can refine or are there any tools that can actually search for you or, go out and look for the ideal client profile for you? Have you seen tools like that?
Mhm. So with LinkedIn, it's really all in the LinkedIn Sales Navigator. There
Yeah.
are other tools that you can enrich data from, like Apollo, Rocket Reach, Zoom Info, that will give you LinkedIn profiles, and you can export those. Like if you want to be more specific and you want to target certain revenue figures of businesses or tools that may be using, that's going to be, for example, an Apollo search, and then you export that into an Excel file, and then you export that into Linked Helper, and then you export that into your software tool, or you just export it directly from the CSV into the software tool. So yes, the only challenge is that then you have a data cost on top of it.
Okay.
Versus Sales Navigator, you're paying $100 a month for unlimited data. So it just depends on how much you want to invest into the data finding part of it.
Okay, that makes sense. And what is the profile that's messaging, that's sending out the information? What does that profile need to look like to be, to
Mhm.
maximize the conversion in that interaction?
Yeah, so that's a great question. There's a couple things. Number one is you want it to be in a region that's near the prospects you're trying to target. So if you are targeting European companies, you want a profile branded in Europe. If you're targeting US, I would definitely recommend major metropolitan areas. If you're nationwide in the US, like New York is a big one, but you could also do LA, Miami. Those are like major hubs. Even Austin, Texas. Um, in a perfect world, if you're targeting, let's say, the entire US and you have 10 accounts, you have accounts in each area that target those regions because that local geographic proximity is important. Number two is just making sure you have at least 500 or more connections before you launch a campaign because that adds credibility. Once you hit 500, it just says 500 plus, and that's that. Number three is just having a well built out profile from an experience section. So instead of just having your experiences listed, you want to like give some bullet points or some background, especially in the about section. You want to have a clear profile picture that shows your face, not like a too far in the background. Ideally, a custom banner about your business, maybe with your logo if you can. You want to have endorsements and recommendations. So that's kind of critical, is making sure you have at least three recommendations. Now, one interesting thing is endorsements on LinkedIn, which are separate from recommendations, or endorsements of skills. Most people, they have endorsements, like let's say they might be endorsed in business development or sales, but they don't know that people only really see your first three endorsements, and
Mm.
you have to actually drag up your endorsements. So you might have a lot of endorsements in a category that's not in your top three. So go into your about section, edit it, and drag up the endorsements. So that way your top endorsements are showing and highlighted. Otherwise, people won't even really see you're endorsed for them. So those are kind of high level. You want to have your open profile badge showing, which is your premium user. You want to show that you went to college, but I would take away the years. If you're like you graduated in the last 10 years, it doesn't help to show that you're younger from a credibility standpoint. So these are all kind of small things, but they make up a big pie.
Nice. Okay. And in terms of like the messaging, what
Mhm.
works? What strategies work there?
Yeah, so it's really about being short, concise, and focusing on a pain point. So the categories of messaging that we've seen most historically successful is when you're selling something that people are looking for. So, for example, with ThinkFish, right, we were selling capital raising, and a lot of companies were looking for capital, so it's easy to bridge the gap. With GrowthCo, we were selling lead generation or marketing services. We're helping people get customers. That was easy to sell because people want more customers, right? But if you're selling a product or a service that isn't as easy to like market because you have a lot of saturation and it's not like actively looked for, like for example, let's say an MSP or a tech company, um, I would focus on having something that's compelling and differentiating for you and all the other companies in the space, whether it be ROI focused, like you can tangibly explain the bottom line, or whether it be like tech focused and explaining how you have a better, like your technology is more advanced, and that is a way of doing it as well, especially with AI companies focusing on the tech, like product feedback. Hey, we're seeking product feedback from real estate agents on our real estate agent CRM AI tool. Would love to get your feedback. That's going to be more effective than saying, hey, I would love to, tell you about our AI platform. Here's exactly what we do, yada, yada, yada. If you're interested in buying, book a call here. So you
Yeah.
have to determine if your offer saves people or makes people money, then you want to go in on that. And if not, you have to focus on another angle that's still compelling. So those are kind of the two frameworks and brackets I look at.
What's an industry that you guys crushed it in?
Well, we crushed it for a lot of other a lot of AI companies.
AI
Like we
companies.
worked with a lot of cool companies. Like one company we worked with for over years called Suggestic. There's an example. They're like an AI telehealth and wellness platform. And what we
Okay.
did was the product feedback strategy, not the kind of like direct solicitation, because they didn't save or make people money, but they got 50 demos a month because they used that. hey, would love to tell you about our technology and get feedback angle. And so that was a really easy one that you can translate to all sorts of AI businesses.
That makes sense. What if like let's say a recruiting business, like a
Mhm.
business that that finds talent for companies, what how would you position that?
So it's actually interesting because we've done that before. Um, it's very easy if they're if they're on the recruiting side and they're basically sourcing candidates like, hey, I have job opportunities. That's a very easy pitch, and we've done that for a lot of clients. If they're trying to find companies that are looking to staff talent,
Yeah.
we've actually had more success going in with a softer approach. So reaching out to people and saying, hey, John, hope all's well. I see, you're the HR manager at this company. I have 20 plus years in HR staffing and recruiting. Actively helping companies like yours with, hiring new candidates. What I'd love to do is hop on a call, get to know you a little bit more, and see if there might be synergies between our respective orgs.
Got
So it's not the sexiest pitch, but it does
yeah.
work and gets people interested. And that's what we found actually has converted several deals. We had a company called QIT Sourcing in Canada we worked with, and they used that strategy. Conversion rate was a little lower than a typical hard script, but they did make a significant ROI. So that's the strategy I would take for staffing.
Got it. So it's more indirect. Let's get to know you. Let's see how we can help each other approach.
Yes,
Then
there's
with the
some.
direct offer.
Mhm. Now, there are some cases if they have a really good niche where they can position themselves better, but they have to have a really compelling guarantee. And a lot of that can be on their pricing model. So if they were targeting, for example, CEOs of companies, 11 to 50 employees, and they had a model where it's like, hey, John, I'm not sure if you're hiring sales talent. I can bring you commission only sales representatives. Like, for example, then that's going to be easier sell because it's like, okay, so this is going to make me money before I really have to break the bank. So
Low
it's also
risk.
about what type of offer, right? So if you position it like a low risk offer for them, then they're going to most likely be interested because it positions you as different. So yeah, I would kind of take a look at the offer of like what your staffing company would do and then position that in a way where it can be like kind of like a zero risk proposition psychologically for the prospect to want to take it.
What other guarantees have you seen worked really well? Like something that's off the chart, conversion.
Mhm. Well, we had in general, you mean, or
Yeah, in
yeah.
general.
So we had a company that helped people reactivate dead leads using AI. And so
Okay.
basically, their business model was they come into businesses and they charge $0 upfront and 50% of revenue recovered for dead leads. And that was a killer offer because we can say, hey, as a market, like they were selling to marketing agencies. As a marketing agency, you probably have hundreds of leads you've talked to in the last few years that are not interested in buying your services. We create systems that automate recovering those leads and only charge you if the deal's closed, right? So kind of a performance based offer where they make money after you make money. Another example, um, this was a long, long time ago, back in 3 years ago, but we were helping businesses receive government funding and credits for a program called Employee Retention Credit. I had a client that
Yeah.
did that. And
Yeah.
so going to people and saying, hey, you might be eligible for funding that you weren't aware of. Or, that is a really great resource because
Yes.
it checks the box of making people money and it
Yeah.
checks the box of decreasing their risk because they don't pay unless they actually get money.
Yeah,
So
I think
those
that's
were
the
two
I
critical
think
ones.
that
Yep.
was the easiest offer of the century. It's like, hey, we'll give you
Yeah,
free money. Hey, would you like some free
exactly.
money? A lot of
Right.
people
It's a
made a
great
lot of
deal.
money. Yes. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So did you get your free money check? No, I didn't. Great. Would you like to? Yes. Give me your let's set up an appointment. Let's set up a call. That's
Right.
cool. So as you're so what like in terms of a lot of people don't really I think that LinkedIn is still underutilized. I mean, I just I don't see and I know you're from your perspective, you've seen a lot of people, you see a lot more competition, but from my side, I don't know anybody in my ecosystem that thinks of LinkedIn as their number one channel or even like their top five channel. Why do you think that's the case?
I think that people just don't really know a lot of things about LinkedIn. Like they don't know about what I was talking about earlier with the open profiles and the email sends. And a lot of people that do LinkedIn campaigns, they try it with just like a small amount of connection requests and they don't have a good offer and they give up very fast because there's not a lot of influencers specifically in the LinkedIn spaces. A lot of people proposing email, a lot of people on content, a lot of people on SEO because those were things that have been around for a few decades.
Yeah.
Um, but with LinkedIn, even though people are doing it, it has I think people automatically kind of perceive it as more spammy because they get a lot of LinkedIn messages and they don't know how to marry kind of everything at once because there's not a course or a system that's like very easily outlined for LinkedIn.
Yeah.
But I think that personally, it's the number one tool that I'm still going to be leveraging for my outbound as long as until the wheels fall off.
Yeah.
But I'm also a huge proponent of email too and other things. But yeah, that's just my take on it. Yeah.
That's good. That's awesome. And so, what other channels do you marry LinkedIn campaign with?
So I think email is a really easy one, right? So, with Linked Helper and these other tools, you can scrape emails. So when you upload the list from the Sales Navigator, or if you pull them from Apollo, even easier, they have the emails already. And in a perfect world, if you can create a drip campaign to automate LinkedIn messages simultaneously go out with emails. So you send them a LinkedIn message and then you send them an email. Hey, sent you a link. Hey, from LinkedIn, we spoke on LinkedIn. Something like that is your subject. You're going to get a much higher conversion. I think LinkedIn and email are also great to marry because the people that get customers on LinkedIn usually also get customers on email because it's a lot of B2B businesses. Um, so I love marrying both of those two together. Um, I think that like in a perfect world, you want a little bit of everything, but I've always been a huge proponent that you really don't need 10 different marketing channels. You really need one or maybe two max. So like a lot of people are like, they need to get LinkedIn, they need to get email, they need to get SEO, they need to get PPC, they need to get Facebook ads, they need to get Google ads, and like all of this stuff.
Yeah.
And they spread themselves too thin versus like for me, I went all in for the last 6 years on just LinkedIn. Yes, I could have done email. Yes, I could have done all these other things, but I focused, I niche, and I just became an expert in just LinkedIn. And that was 10 times higher ROI for me than trying to do everything.
Makes sense. What you didn't mention LinkedIn ads? Is there are those not effective?
High cost per leads, and you don't get to game the system like you do with LinkedIn automation. Because with LinkedIn ads, you're paying for ad spend, and you're also likely, if you're not running yourself, paying an agency to do it for you. So it can
Yeah.
be expensive. And the cost per lead with a LinkedIn ad is much higher than Facebook. I definitely recommend LinkedIn automation because your only cost is software aside from LinkedIn Sales Navigator. And so that way you can scale up a lot faster. And at the end of the day, with a lot of LinkedIn ads, you're just paying for sponsored emails, which you're just paying to send an email versus you could do basically for free with
Yeah.
the software tool. It's effectively free. So I'm not a fan.
Okay, that makes sense. Does LinkedIn have any retargeting options?
Um,
Do you
you
know?
can basically get like retargeting in terms of what exactly? Like people that
Like,
engage.
yeah, the people that either follow you or you connected
Mhm.
with, or people that have seen your profile, that looked at your profile, where you can
Yeah.
put an ad in front of them, not necessarily new audience.
Yeah, so there's filters in Sales Navigator to target people that are following your company if you have a decent sized following. I work with a company, one of our clients, a company called Valuetainment. It's run by a guy named Patrick Bet
Yeah.
David, and we helped run outreach to their followers. We actually, Growth Co's still working with them now. So like they have a big audience, so it's easy to target their following, but most companies don't have, 50,000 followers on LinkedIn. So, running a campaign to first degree connections is also a good strategy. Existing first degree connections, and it's a completely different message when you target existing connections. It's more of an informal, hey, how's it going type message before you activate them in a pitch.
Yeah.
And so you can do that, which is effectively just retargeting your own contacts. So that's effective. And then another great strategy is also like it's not exactly retargeting, but trying to find more commonalities is groups. So like going into LinkedIn groups and then using AI tools to outreach to people who are in the groups and using that as a commonality. So that's something as well.
Okay, nice. And let's switch a little bit on into the acquisition piece. You sold three companies. What was the decision? What drove you to sell? Why not just, milk it all the way through, grow it to $100 billion company? What made you exit?
Well, honestly, for me, a lot of it's just like the excitement of going 0 to 1. Like I
Okay.
really enjoy the fire and like intensity it takes to go from zero to $100,000 a month. And after I get to a certain point, it's just not as fun for me, honestly. Which might not be the smartest financial decision, but I like being invigorated by the work that I do, and that keeps me passionate. And so the way I structured some of my exits as well has been retaining some of the equity in the business. So I still have some of the upside, so I'm not giving
Okay.
up everything. And there are additional, earn out and additional milestones as the company grows. That's on top of the asking price that I wanted. So like I'm not necessarily throwing out all future incentives, but I I love to build 0 to 1 and get something to a stable framework, and then I get bored. It might be my ADHD.
Okay.
But I think it's also been great from a cash flow perspective. Like with GrowthCo, I built it it took 12 months, literally. It's been 12 months, built it to, mid six figures a month, and was able to exit very, very fast. And now I can go build something else and do more things, right? So that's exciting to me to be able to jump into new projects, almost like a consultant, but for my own businesses.
Nice. Do you have an idea for the next thing before you sell the one you have, or usually you just sell and then spend some time thinking about the next thing?
I think it's kind of hybrid. Like right now, I'm actually working on a new business that's more focused on personal branding and content. So I'm going to be trying to build my personal brand, post more on my social medias, and then instead of charging people a monthly fee for marketing services, I'm actually going into businesses and implementing the systems for them, bringing them the software tools, systems, and people. So that's something that I'm doing on and more of like an equity and revenue share basis for businesses instead. So true partner rather than let's say a agency. So that's something that I'm building now because I saw a disconnect in the fact that agencies will charge high fees and a lot of their fee just goes to paying them and not the actual fulfillment.
Yeah.
And so that's something that I'm working on. But like honestly, like I feel like I need to have like my brain fully free and clear before I fully commit to, let's say I want to go build a company for the next 5 to 10 years, and I'm sure I'll find that in the inevitable future.
But also you have the challenges around managing people and managing, clients and servicing clients. Where is obviously you said you love the 0 to 1. What is your least favorite part of building a business?
Least favorite part of building the business is, I mean, I'm not too much of a fan of like day-to-day operations and client management. I like to focus on the growth and the scaling and the marketing. That's what invigorates me. It's exciting to me, like building new marketing systems and closing deals, and that's exciting. So for me, it's been about building a business that only focuses on doing things I like to do. So I
Okay.
brought in extra operational staff and more people on the ops side to take that out of my scope so I can focus on what I like to do.
Yeah.
And I always encourage founders, I tell them to like focus on what you want to do and like audit your calendar. Look at your calendar 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Literally look at every single block and see what are you doing that you don't want to do and delegate, delegate, delegate. Because the only way to scale is to take yourself out of the day to day.
Okay. Well, so a lot of entrepreneurs and a lot of business owners have kind of like the opposite, where they spend a lot of time in ops, they enjoy ops, but they don't really like sales, and they don't really like
Hmm.
the spending a lot of time trying to find customers. What is usually your advice to those that kind of entrepreneur that's not constantly, seeking
Hmm.
out business, building their brand and so forth?
Yeah, I mean, I think as an entrepreneur, you have to love sales. You have to. It's a prerequisite to being an entrepreneur. So if you're an entrepreneur that doesn't like doing sales, hopefully you have a co-founder that does.
Yeah.
Because entrepreneurship is sales in the beginning. That's all it is. Whether you're selling people to raise money, whether you're selling customers, and if that's the mindset that they have, I don't think that they'll go very far. Most of the time.
Okay. Are you thinking about doing any acquisitions yourself?
It's definitely something I'm looking into. I'm uh, open to it. I think it's really going to be depending on the type of business that can really be leveraged with the skills that I have, right?
Okay.
Like that's building in driving outsourced teams, that's building these marketing systems. So inefficient companies that could use that would definitely be something I would look into for sure. And the right
Okay.
partners, of course.
Okay. So tell me a little bit more about your new venture, your personal branding companies within companies.
Mhm.
I'm curious about that. So how do you kind of link the two? Because I heard the personal branding, which I have an idea what that is, but then how do you do it within the company and then do a rev share model? So tell me,
Yeah.
break it down for me. That's very interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. So the company that I'm creating is called Grow Big Ventures. I created it with two of my friends who also have successful agencies. And basically, what we're doing is we're going into businesses and we're implementing the LinkedIn and also email marketing framework for them, and giving them the tools and giving them the people and the resources. So instead of paying us, for example, $2,000 a month to run one LinkedIn account and it's done for you, now they can run 10 to 15 LinkedIn accounts for $2,000 a month, so literally 10 to 15 times the results. And they don't pay us a fee to do it. They pay the softwares, they hire the people. We bring in the tools, we bring in the people for them. So we build the engine that we
Okay.
built ourselves. And then instead of charging them a fee for that, we come in as a partner and we say, hey, we're going to take X revenue or X override. It might be on revenue share on deals we bring them, it might be on their entire business. And it's performance based. So if they don't get good results working with us, then we lose our equity share, or we lose our revenue share. So we come in as actual partners and not agency, because I think that that is going to get the clients more results because they get times more like output, and
Yeah.
they're also not having a misalignment with an agency that just wants to charge them high fees and deliver less results. So
Interesting.
that's the pivot that I'm making from a service standpoint.
I like it. It's obviously you're de-risking the service for the entrepreneur, and
Yes.
it's performance based, so it's a no-brainer for anybody. Have you started pitching this?
Yes, we already have five clients that we have ranging equity share agreements, and we have one company called Transbridge Advisors. They're helping with payments. We started with them, and they were doing about 100,000 a month. This month, they'll do like 400,000. Three
Nice.
months, we 10x their growth, added dozens of customers, and helped streamline their operations. So these are the types of businesses we want to work with. Companies that are doing five figures or six figures a month who want to get to seven plus, and also just to know it's not just building marketing systems, it's taking the founder out of the day to day from a third party lens. So we're going to look at what they're doing, take them out of the day to day, hire operations people. We're basically an extended co-founder of large cities businesses, fractional
Interesting.
co-founders, like the way we look at it. Yeah, fractional growth co-founder. Yeah.
Interesting. That's fascinating.
Mhm.
And so you're not only doing the lead gen and revenue growth side, but also you're getting involved in ops as well.
Everything that the founder needs. We like to think of ourselves like you call us at 11 p.m. on a Monday night, we're going to pick up the phone.
Nice. And how many people do you have on your team?
So right now it's me, my partner Yarden, and my partner Ibrahim. So it's us three like doing the majority of the work. We have a small team under us that helps with like some back end stuff, but we're very selective about who we take on. And so right now it's us three spearheading the work ourselves.
Got it.
All three of us has experience building a seven figure agency. So our skill sets are very translatable to B2B service businesses.
That's awesome. That's really good. I mean, it's a strong offer. You talk about strong offers. This is a strong offer, and it's a
Yeah.
no-brainer. And are you targeting some industries, specific industries, or is it's all over the place?
It's B2B service companies in pretty much any industry. As long as it's an industry that they are also like selling, like it's basically B2B to B. They have to be selling to B to other businesses. Like if they're an e-commerce brand, it's not really up our alley. It's more B2C.
Yeah,
So anyone in that range that's open to wanting like that kind of extra boost, but doesn't want to give up like a large share of their company to someone else, and
yeah,
who doesn't want to have to pay a salary to a seasoned executive. That's what they get when they work with us.
makes sense. Okay, yeah, we're gonna have to do another call on that one because it's the first time
Absolutely.
I hear about it. This is great. So, any other frameworks that you've found that helped you in growing fast and being able to succeed in your ventures?
Mhm. I think it's really just about hiring proactively. So like I'll give you an example. I had someone I met at a conference a few months ago who was like, "Well, Zain, I'm doing $5,000 a month, and I want to get to $10,000 a month. And once I get to $10,000 a month, I'm going to hire this operations person." And I said, "Hey, hire this operations person. That's how you're going to get to $10,000 a month. You have to be willing to invest in people and marketing proactively and be aggressive with that in order to get your goals. You don't want to get revenue and then hire later. So I always overhire, and I like to hire in regions where it's very cost effective. Like for example, I hire a lot of backend people in Philippines. I've also started recently hiring in South Africa for a lot of backend operation roles, and then Eastern Europe has also been a good region. So I would look at posting jobs on LinkedIn or onlinejobs.ph or those resources and scaling. And the key to success is really just leveraging the right outsourced team and balancing that with Western talent if and when needed. But if you go all in on just Western talent and you don't have anyone abroad for fulfillment, it's likely an inefficiency in the business.
Yeah, 100%. We're in Eastern Europe.
So we were looking at Ukraine as one of the regions that we were hiring. Actually, I don't know if you know them, Arthur and
Yeah,
Mike from Twine. So they were
yeah,
they were hiring in Ukraine as well. Those regions. So they had a lot of success. So we copied a leaf out of their book there.
nice. And South Africa, is it in, what kind of talent are you looking in South Africa?
Yeah, so it's a lot of customer facing roles. We found with Philippines, obviously great country, great people, but the culture there, what I've seen is it's a lot more better for like back end, like administrative, like bookkeeping, like like responding to leads and like back end stuff. But customer facing, because a lot of South Africans are more Western and they can communicate better with Western clients. So having that personality on like client calls has been more effective than I think Philippines, which can have a little bit more timid sometimes, not all of them, but sometimes. So that's what I've found, like the client facing roles, the communication. Interesting also, Egypt I found has been a good region for sales reps. I've seen a lot of hit or miss with Egypt, but for closers, closers in Egypt have actually been a really good market that a few of my friends have been hiring in. That I also think is good for sales closures.
Okay. And what are your thoughts on AI?
AI, like AI for like automating business processes. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah, automating business processes. In your marketing, we just talked earlier about, the
mhm.
difference between, how the automated
Yeah,
tools that have the promise, but not necessarily the performance yet.
yeah.
So in general, AI in general, in your business processes, what are your thoughts there?
Yeah, it's definitely critical. Like one of the AI things we're looking at actually actively working with another company right now is using AI to do all the responses after the leads are interested in LinkedIn. So that's a very huge component that would limit the amount of people we need to hire as account managers. So that's one. There's a company Arthur's actually building. It's called Lex.ai, and they basically build AI agents that help optimize the daily workflows and kind of act as like a fractional partner of the business and in connecting integrations and handling email, all of that stuff. I personally like AI in all like admin tasks. If there's something I don't need to do myself, I would love for AI to do it. But high level client communication and stuff like that, it's still a little bit hard for me to trust AI to like an AI like representative to hop on a call. Like,
Yeah.
they're good for maybe handling inbound phone leads, but like client communication, you can't really outsource that just yet. I'm sure in the next few years I can create an AI co-founder that can have these types of calls. Not yet.
What's an AI tool that you've used the last 2 to 3 weeks that you love outside of the general models? What's a tool that you've been using recently, playing with recently that you find a lot of promise with?
Mhm. So one is we just started exploring using Lex, the company I was talking about, for one of the companies we're working with. We haven't actually launched that yet, but that's going to be something I'm very excited about that can take off a lot of admin tasks for us. Number two, on like more specific to my business, Connect
Yeah,
More, the AI
or
tool is. Hmm?
yeah, or anything doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be specific to your business, but any type of AI tool that you used recently that you're excited about that you're sharing with others.
Um, Off the top of my head, like since we just exited the business, I know the new founder is bringing in some new tools. Like Connect More for LinkedIn and Lex for like the AI agents is good. I mean, AI tools in general, like I definitely leverage like everyone else, like ChatGPT and Claude and a lot of those for more like day-to-day functions.
Yeah.
I can't think of any other tool off the top of my head that I'm actively
Okay.
leveraging right now, but those are kind of the main ones that were more specific for my business. But we are integrating a new suite very soon.
Awesome. Awesome. Cool. Well, I appreciate you taking the time, Zane. This was really good. I know a lot of people are going to benefit. And I want to hear more about your new venture for sure. What's the name
Yeah,
of the
thank you so
company?
much, Jay. It's called Grow Big Ventures.
Grow Big Ventures. And that is that .ai, .io, .com. What's the website?
.com. Yeah,
.com. Oh, good.
growbigventures.com.
Loved it. Love
Yeah.
it. Okay, man. I
Yeah.
appreciate it. Thank you, Zane.
Thank you so much, Jay. All right.
Have a
I'll
good one.
catch up with you soon.
Bye.
Cheers.